which I would be bringing my wife and children back to the UK at this point. And the things that they're going to miss is, well, everything.
The United Kingdom is reeling after Prince Harry made a bold and unexpected move, removing young Archie from the royal palace entirely. This stunning decision has left the monarchy rattled, royal insiders whispering, and the public demanding answers. What could have sparked such a drastic separation from the very heart of royal tradition? Is Harry protecting his son from unseen dangers, or is this the latest chapter in his long-running feud with the crown? One thing's certain, this isn't just about family, it's a royal crisis in the making. Let's uncover the truth. Harry's unexpected package. After Prince Philip passed away, it took several months before his personal belongings were finally sorted out. Most of his items had been carefully stored, tucked away in places where he had left them for safekeeping. He had taken the time to organize everything, making sure that each item would end up with someone he cared about. Though many of these things looked plain or old, they held deep meaning. Each one told a story, a memory from his long life, a reflection of his choices, and a quiet tribute to the people he had loved most. Among all these personal treasures, one package stood out. It was specially set aside for Prince Harry. The box had been packed with care, wrapped neatly, and clearly labeled with his name. When it finally made its way to Harry, he wasn't expecting it at all. Life has been heavy lately. There was a lot on his mind. Distance from the royal family, big changes, and emotions that were still settling. So when the box was handed to him, everything around him seemed to pause. It wasn't a large box, but it had a certain weight to it. Not just physical, but emotional. Holding it in his hands, Harry took a deep breath before opening it. He gently lifted the lid and began to look through what was inside, piece by piece. The first thing he saw was a photograph placed in a simple frame. It was old, but full of life. In the picture, a much younger Harry was laughing alongside Prince Philip during a joyful family moment. It wasn't a staged royal portrait. It was real, warm, and full of emotion. Harry stared at the photo for a long time, holding it carefully. The moment captured in the image came rushing back to him, bringing memories he hadn't thought about in a while. Then he noticed a small wooden box inside the package. It had a smooth surface and clicked softly when he opened it. Inside were a few of Prince Philip's old belongings. A pair of slightly worn but polished cufflinks, and a pocket knife, the same one Philip had carried on walks around the estate. These were not expensive gifts, but they were rich with history. They were parts of Prince Philip's daily life, full of personality and memories. At the very bottom of the package, tucked away carefully, was a handwritten note. The writing was neat, thoughtful. It wasn't a long letter, but each word had weight. The note explained that Prince Philip had chosen these items himself, and that some of them were not just for Harry. They were for Archie. Harry paused when he read that part. His son was still very young, far too young to understand the meaning behind any of this. But Philip had thought about him anyway. He had planned ahead, leaving behind something for his great-grandson, even though they hadn't spent much time together in recent years. That simple note, full of quiet care, meant everything. As Harry read the note again, the meaning behind each item in the box became clearer. Some were for him, reminders of his grandfather's love and lessons. Others were meant to be passed down to Archie when the time was right. It wasn't just a box of things. It was a message from the past, a sign that Prince Philip had been thinking of both of them. He carefully put everything back in the box, just the way he had found it. He didn't want to lose any piece of it or forget its meaning. In his heart, the box had become something precious, something he would one day give to Archie when he was old enough to understand. But for now, Harry chose to keep it safe. As the day went on, Harry stayed quietly with the box. He didn't tell anyone about it. He didn't pick up the phone. He just sat with it, letting the emotions rise and settle. He thought about Prince Philip's final years, how, even from afar, he had kept Archie in his thoughts. Was there anything special for Archie in the box? Let's find out. Prince Philip's letter to Archie. When Prince Harry opened the box that had been sent to him, he didn't rush. He took his time, gently going through each item inside. Every object seemed to hold a memory, like a whisper from the past. But then, something unexpected happened. At the bottom of the box, under a small book, a folded envelope slid out. It hadn't been placed there to be seen right away. It was tucked in quietly, almost like a secret waiting to be discovered. Harry picked it up and immediately noticed the handwriting on the front. It looked familiar, like something from long ago. The envelope had just one word on it: Archie. Harry stared at it for a moment, holding it without opening it. He turned it over in his hands, feeling the weight of it, the texture of the thick paper. It was the kind of envelope used for serious things, important messages. There was no stamp, no date, no clue about when it was written. But somehow Harry knew. This letter had been written before Prince Philip died. Even though Prince Philip hadn't spent much time with Archie after Harry and Meghan moved away, he had still taken the time to write something for him. That alone said a lot. After sitting in silence for a few minutes, Harry slowly opened the envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper folded with care. He unfolded it gently, almost afraid to tear it. The letter wasn't typed. It was written by hand, in Prince Philip's own handwriting. The ink had faded just a little, but the words were still perfectly clear. The letter wasn't long or fancy. It was short, simple, and straight from the heart. Prince Philip hadn't tried to sound royal or formal. He'd written the way a grandfather would speak to his great-grandson, with honesty, warmth, and quiet strength. Harry read the letter once, then again. Every word pulled at something deep inside him. It was clear that Prince Philip had been thinking carefully about Archie's future. The letter wasn't about giving advice or setting rules. It was about family, courage, and what it means to carry your name with dignity. Prince Philip had lived through war, loss, and a life constantly in the public eye. He wasn't known for speaking about emotions. But here, in this letter, he had shared something truly personal. He wrote about standing tall in tough times, about being both strong and kind, and about never pretending that life would always be easy. There was one part of the letter that really made Harry pause. Prince Philip had mentioned Archie's parents, not by name, but in a way that showed he understood them. He spoke of strength and gentleness, and how those two things should walk side by side. He didn't ignore the hard parts of life. He faced them, and he wanted Archie to do the same. As Harry read the letter a third time, he felt something shift in his heart. This was more than just a note. It was a gift, a piece of family legacy, a quiet voice from the past reaching into the future. He folded the letter carefully, slid it back into the envelope, and just held it. He didn't want to let go. Looking around the room, his thoughts drifted, first to the past, then to Archie's future. Archie was still too young to understand any of this, but one day he would be ready. And when that day came, Harry would be waiting with the letter in hand. For now, it needed to be kept safe. Harry wrapped the letter in a soft cloth and gently placed it in the back of a drawer. Then he closed the drawer and stood still for a while, lost in thought. That simple letter had done something no speech or grand gesture ever could. It touched Harry's heart in a quiet, powerful way. It didn't erase the past, but it gave him something priceless, a message of love, strength, and connection. A message that would live on, waiting for Archie to one day read the words written just for him. So, what message did the letter contain? Let's take a closer look. Pearls of wisdom. After reading the letter a few times, Prince Harry began to really think about each line. He didn't rush. He took his time, going over every word slowly. The sentences weren't fancy or filled with big words, but each one carried deep meaning. Prince Philip hadn't tried to sound poetic or impressive. He had just spoken from the heart, like someone who truly wanted to say something important. The letter didn't feel like it had been written in a hurry. It felt like something carefully thought out, like it came from a man who had seen a lot, felt a lot, and wanted to pass down something real. It wasn't about royal rules or how to act in public. It wasn't about duty, fame, or tradition. It was about life, real life. It spoke of standing tall when things fall apart, of showing respect to others, no matter what, of keeping your chin up even when people try to tear you down. It reminded Harry that strength isn't about titles. It's about not giving up, even when everything feels heavy. Prince Philip had lived through war, pressure, loss, and complicated family matters. He had experienced life from many angles, and somehow he had managed to fit that lifetime of wisdom into just a few powerful paragraphs. There was one part Harry kept reading over and over, the part about making mistakes and learning to rise again. That one hit home. He thought about his own journey, how he'd stepped away from royal life, how people didn't always understand, how even those he loved had questioned him. "I didn't leave the family," he had once said. "I left the system. I had to." He and Meghan had moved across the world to start something new. It hadn't been easy. There had been judgment, headlines, and heartbreak. But in those quiet words from his grandfather, Harry felt something he hadn't felt in a long time: understood. Another part of the letter talked about kindness. Not the kind people fake for appearances, but true kindness. Prince Philip had written that kindness wasn't weakness. In fact, real strength is how you treat others when you're tired, angry, or hurting. That line stuck with Harry. It reminded him of how he wanted to raise Archie, with honesty, compassion, and love. Seeing those words on the page made him even more determined to keep doing that. There was also a part about being honest with yourself. Prince Philip had written, "No matter what, never lie to yourself." That line stayed in Harry's mind for a long time. He thought back to all the years he had tried to live a life that didn't feel like his own, trying to meet expectations that never seemed to match who he really was. Leaving had been hard, but reading those words helped him feel more confident in the path he had chosen. This letter didn't come from a man who was just a prince. It came from someone who had faced life's storms and kept going. Prince Philip wasn't known for sharing feelings easily, but this letter showed a different side, a softer, more thoughtful side. It showed he had been paying attention all along, even if he didn't always say it out loud. As the day went on, Harry kept returning to the letter. Every time he read it, something new stood out. A small phrase, a sentence that hit a little deeper than before. He realized this letter wasn't something Archie would read just once. It was something he could come back to over the years. It could guide him when he was confused, comfort him when he was hurt, and remind him of who he was and where he came from. Harry knew he wouldn't give the letter to Archie just yet. He was still too young. But one day, when the time was right, he would pass it on. Until then, he would keep it safe. Not just because it came from Prince Philip, but because of what it meant, because of how it made him feel. That letter had touched something deep inside Harry. It didn't erase the pain of the past, but it gave him clarity. It reminded him that even when families go through hard times, there are still things that keep them connected. This letter was one of those things. That night, as the world around him grew quiet, Harry read the letter one last time. Then he folded it gently, placed it back into its envelope, and closed the drawer. He knew that when Archie was ready, he would share it with him, along with the story of the man who wrote it. A man who had lived a full life. A man who had left behind more than memories. He had left behind words that could light the way forward. What kind of man did he want his son to become? Let's explore further. Generational gift through the ages. As Prince Harry carefully continued looking through the rest of the box, he noticed something else hidden inside a folded cloth. It was small and tucked into a soft, worn leather pouch. Gently, he picked it up and turned it over in his hands. The leather felt old but strong, like someone had taken care of it for many years. He slowly opened the pouch and found a small object wrapped in velvet. Unwrapping it, he discovered a watch. It wasn't shiny or fancy. The metal was slightly faded, and the glass had a few scratches. But even so, it had a quiet, timeless beauty. It still worked, ticking softly like a steady heartbeat. Harry leaned back, holding the watch carefully. When he turned it over, he noticed something scratched into the back. Not Prince Philip's name, but someone else's. Probably a family member from long ago. And that's when it hit him. This watch hadn't just belonged to Prince Philip. It had been passed down from one person to another across generations. And now, it has reached him. But it wasn't truly for him. It was meant for Archie. Harry froze, staring at the watch in his hands. He didn't move. He just imagined the many hands that had once held it. Maybe it had been carried through long walks, placed beside beds at night, or wound up every morning by someone getting ready for the day. This little watch had been part of someone's everyday life. It had lived through years, maybe even decades, and it had survived it all. He gently placed it on the table and kept staring at it. Somewhere deep in his memory, he remembered seeing it once as a child. Back then, he didn't think much of it. It was just another old thing Prince Philip had. But now, after everything that had happened, it felt completely different. It wasn't just an object anymore. It was a piece of family history, something real, something meaningful. He picked it up again and noticed a tiny folded note tucked inside the back of the watch. The paper was thin, almost hidden. Carefully, he pulled it out and unfolded it. The handwriting looked like Prince Philip's. There were only a few lines, but they said so much. The note explained that the watch had belonged to someone who had taught Prince Philip the true value of time and discipline. That person had given the watch to him when he was young. Now, he wanted to pass it on to Archie. That was all. No long stories. Just a short, powerful message. Harry sat there, holding both the note and the watch. He understood what this gift meant. It wasn't something bought from a store. It wasn't meant to impress anyone. It had traveled through years, through changes, through family, struggles, and joys. And now it had reached a new chapter, a new child in the family. Archie was still too young to wear it, but the watch already belonged to him. Harry held it close, feeling a strong connection to the past and a deep hope for the future. He realized that traditions aren't always written down. Sometimes they live inside small things, things that carry meaning far beyond their size. This watch, simple as it was, held more history and emotion than a book ever could. It carried silent stories, stories told by time. He decided then and there to keep it safe. It wouldn't be worn until Archie was ready. Until then, it would be protected, just as Prince Philip would have wanted. Harry found a small box in his drawer and gently wrapped the watch back in the velvet cloth. He placed it inside the box, closed it, and put it somewhere safe, away from dust, danger, or forgetfulness. Later that night, as he sat alone, Harry thought deeply about what it means to pass something down. He remembered watching Prince Philip as a boy, fixing little things, winding clocks, carrying this same watch on trips. At the time, those moments didn't seem important, but now they came back clearly, full of meaning. What touched him most was knowing that Prince Philip had thought about Archie before the boy could even speak or walk. He had chosen something personal, something filled with history, not a fancy gift, but something real, something that had already stood the test of time. Harry looked at the box one last time before putting it away. He felt grateful. This moment would stay with him forever, and one day it would help Archie feel the same connection to his family, to his roots, and to the quiet strength of those who came before him. How did Harry react after reading the letter? Let's find out. Harry's emotional reflection. After putting the heirloom back in the box, Prince Harry sat quietly in the room. The lights were dim, and the air felt heavy. He hadn't expected the day to turn out like this. At first, he had only planned to look through some old things and put them away. But now, everything feels different. The letter, the watch, the memories, they had all come together and brought up emotions he had tried to ignore for months. He got up and started walking around the room, hoping it would calm him down. He picked things up and put them down again, looking for something to distract him. But nothing worked. He finally sat down and rubbed his eyes, trying to stay strong, but the feelings kept rising. So much has changed in the past few years. He had left the only life he had ever known. He had moved to a new country, trying to create a new beginning for his family. But moments like this brought everything back. The sadness, the doubts, the weight he had carried for so long. The letter's words stayed in his mind. The image of the old watch stayed in his heart. And even though Prince Philip was gone, Harry could still feel his presence. As he paced the room, memories started to flood in. He remembered the last time he had seen his grandfather. He He thought about their short talks, the way Prince Philip looked at him with quiet strength, and all the childhood moments, running into rooms where he sat reading, walking beside him during public events. One memory after another returned, clearer than ever. Suddenly, Harry stopped walking. He leaned against the wall and covered his face with both hands. At first, the tears came slowly, then they came faster. He didn't try to hold them back. He had been holding it in for far too long. The tears weren't just for Prince Philip. They were for everything. For the pain of missing someone. For the guilt. For all the warm but painful memories. He slowly sank to the floor, his back against the wall, arms resting on his knees, head bowed. He stayed like that for a long time, letting it all out. He didn't make a sound, but the tears kept falling. His chest was tight. His breathing was shaky. It wasn't just about losing his grandfather. It was about the distance between him and the rest of the royal family. It was about things that had gone wrong, things he had never said, and the pain of walking away. He thought about his mother too, everything she had gone through. It felt like all that pain had finally caught up to him, too heavy for one person to carry. Before going to bed, Harry placed a photo of Archie in the drawer beside the letter. He wanted his son to one day see both things together, his great-grandfather's words, and the boy those words were meant for. So, what do you think about Prince Harry's unexpected decision? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Don't forget to like and subscribe.